Hello and welcome to the Brass Junkies, where I am regularly mocked by my business partner, Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you?
I'm in a mocking mood.
I didn't even say my name is Andrew Hitz, in case you confused me with the other person who needs a haircut who is regularly hosting this podcast. Boy, I saw some photos of me on my Google Home Hub from like June, July. It was it was getting interesting. So I mean, it's interesting now, but it was getting interesting.
Mega.
So, yeah, mega interesting. So guess what, Lance?
Chicken butt.
We spoke to Domingo Pagliuca of Boston
Oh,
Brass.
really? How was that?
It was good.
Oh.
It was great. He talked about a whole lot of things, moving his family from Venezuela when he was established there to not being established here. Remarkable story.
And then moving his family again because it just made more sense. And yeah, being fearless and trusting your gut, working with Sam, like just a ton of really great stuff. He won a freaking Grammy.
Yeah, he unpacked the last thing that Sam did in his career professionally, which was producing Domingo's solo album, which just won the Latin Grammy for Best Classical Album of the Year. Mm-hmm. Not Best Classical Trombone Album, just classical album, period. Yeah, it's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yep, good stuff.
I was very excited about that.
Speaking of Sam Palafian, we have an event coming up, don't we, Lance?
We do?
Yeah, we do. We do. And you can learn all about this event by going to our brand new website. Why don't you tell the people about our brand new website?
Hey,
Lance?
we just got off of a big meeting to put the final touches on the relaunch of our website. We want to encourage all of you to come check it out. It's actually I'm really proud of it and excited by it. There's all sorts of new and wonderful stuff there. There's a store at the site now where you can go buy a mug or whatever. You used to have to go to a different platform, which was a bit like a
Walmart.
A Walmart.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I went to a border market in Africa, and where our store is now reminds me of how I felt when I was in that border market, the disorientation and noise. This one is pretty slick, and we're going to continue to roll out products over the next few weeks, months, years, and some of them will be limited edition. We've got some really cool, exciting things to share with you there. There's a way for you to support the show if you want, and there's a place for you to go support our sponsors, which we want to encourage you to do as well. And speaking of sponsors, we have a new sponsor, relatively new sponsor. Now it's been a few episodes, but Houchin Horns is one of our sponsors, and we couldn't be happier. They have newly expanded policies that make it easier to purchase and test drive the best equipment during a time when safety and staying home are top priorities. It's a 15-day money-back guarantee with free shipping on all new instruments and accessories with multiple easy financing options on all inventory with terms and conditions applied. Houchin Horns is a premier brass pro shop with an impressive lineup of the best instruments, accessories, sheet music, and more. And if you enter the promo code JUNKIES11 at online checkout, you can receive $500 off your purchase of a new instrument. So visit HouchinHorns.com, and thank you for their support.
So I said, speaking of Sam, and then I might have segued to the website because I didn't have the time and date in front of me. But Lance, you did an amazing job. Like you're really inspiring.
That's the least I could do.
Yes. So we recorded on January 23rd, which is a Saturday at 8 p.m. We are premiering on YouTube this mega event that we had featuring 15 guests, all honoring Sam Palafian. It's the first installment in our Brass Legacy project. The 15 people, Pat Sheridan, Velvet Brown, Marty Hackelman, Gail Williams, Mark Gould, Julie Landsman, the whole list of 15 people is that caliber. it's really, really was a really special event. I cannot wait for everybody to see it. We raised a whole bunch of money for Cancer Blows, and we are hoping to continue to raise money for that. But you can head to our brand new website, pedalomedia.com/events, and you can learn more about that, or just subscribe to our YouTube channel. And the premiere for that is going to be set for January 23rd at 8 p.m. So yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. It was cool to have in-depth discussions on a big variety of the things that he did. So him as a player, as a producer, as a teacher, as an arranger, as a colleague, as a mentor. So it was really fun look at all the facets of his career.
Speaking of our YouTube channel, we are actually doing a weekly hang, the Brass Junkies Sundays chat, which is happening every Sunday night at 7, which is broadcast live on our YouTube channel, also on our Facebook page. But come check us out there. Leave us some comments. We can answer some questions, and those have been fun.
They've been really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, they've been, and sometimes helpful. Like we had a couple of questions that forced us to actually provide what you could argue was helpful content last week. So,
Yeah,
but that's
I don't
not
know how
always
that
the case.
happened, but it was an accident.
And in fact, that question was from someone named Archie who was in Belgium.
Yeah.
So Belgium reporting at 1 a.m. to make us be less, like ourselves and more helpful. So
Yeah.
so thank you very much to Archie in Belgium for helping to keep us on track. And without further ado, we are going to get to our conversation with Boston Brass's Domingo Pagliuca. And today on the Brass Junkies, we are joined by the Venezuelan trombone legend who goes by the alias Domingo Pagliuca. Domingo, how are you?
Hey man, thank you so much. Good. Thank you for the invite. It's always a pleasure to see you guys. Thank you so much.
It is an honor for you, I'm sure. So,
always,
yeah.
always. I'm just looking forward to this.
Domingo is Domingo is, of course, the trombonist in Boston Brass, and he took over for Lance, but I was in the band with him for like 4 months, and Domingo is one of the least satisfying people I've ever been in a band with to make fun of because he's just so nice. He smiles at everything, and he's basically just like, oh, thank you.
I know that, but with that, it's like, okay, what am I gonna do now?
Great power comes great responsibility. I told him that I always describe him as the much more talented and nice replacement to me in Boston Brass.
And anytime he says that, I'm not ever in too much of a hurry to correct him. I just kind of change the subject before I have to agree, or disagree. So. So how is life, Domingo? These are crazy times. Like Boston Brass is obviously not doing too much. So what are you doing to keep busy?
Well, first of all, it's hard to get motivated when things are like this. Actually, when the times are so dark in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I took it, the situation is just okay. I just say, that's it. I'm not going to worry about this. I'm just going to keep on going to doing what I do. In fact, I said, I'm going to be doing the practicing that I haven't been done like in the past years. So I've been really getting into the practicing and getting to the cleaning up of what we do. And just figuring it out what I want actually for the future. And in fact, it's been motivating a lot because I wouldn't say that I found myself because I'm not going to get into that, but it really hit me in the positive way of pursuing my goals. And I know that after this time, whenever, the light hits out again, the people that haven't been doing what they needed to do, they're not going to make it. And the way that I see it is when we are back out on the road, I'm going to eat the world. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to be the best that I can be. I'm always trying to get better of what I'm doing. I mean, that's kind of the way that I put my mind on. Otherwise, there was going to be, why would I do it? Why should I practice? I mean, if we're not gonna be working soon,
Right.
But I don't see it that way. I just kind of see where I want to be at some point, and I say, it's either now that I do it, or that bus is gonna take off. I'm not gonna be ready to jump into it. So it's kind of that's how I've been seeing life lately, like in the last few months.
How how long did it take? The bottom fell out, and so it was like a huge shock to everyone, and particularly for you and everyone who was making the bulk of their income from being on the road. That's a punch to the gut. So how long? I mean, it sounds like you've handled it in an amazingly healthy and productive and creative way, and I can't wait to dig into what came out the other side. But how long was that initial shock, and how long until you were like, okay, I roll up my sleeves and move? Was it like days, weeks, or
no,
instantly?
I didn't give it an opportunity to hit me.
Just going. We're just going.
I said, okay, this is happening. I don't know how long it's gonna take, so I'm not gonna let it bother me. Otherwise, I will lose that.
Mm-hmm. And is that in? I'm guessing the answer is yes. Is that in alignment with your general worldview? I mean, is this how you've just sort of come through life?
Yeah.
And why is that? Would you say?
Also, because of my dad, I would say that. I mean, my dad is a really hardworking person, but
What's your dad, or did he do?
He used to play trombone, and he's an orchestra conductor. He's retired, but he hasn't accepted it yet. But he's 80. He's 80 years old. And so my dad has always been a go-getter, and he's a hardworking guy, but he always look into the positive sides of things. So the work will be falling down, and he would be, we're going to make it. We just shake it up, and we're just going to make it. So I think that's part of our, race, because he has always accomplished everything that he wanted it. And he also, even though it maybe took more time than other things, but he has always accomplished the things that he always wanted to do. So I guess I see it kind of in a normal way, that's the way things should be. Either you don't get it now, you're going to get it later, but you really have to want it. It's not going to come by itself, and you don't have I don't have the right to believe that it's going to get to me. You see what I mean? The difference is not that I have the right and it's going to come because I have the right. No, you have to earn it. You have to get it. So since I was raised that way, I just go. It's like when I moved from Venezuela back to the States. I went to school here, and as we Venezuelans and mostly Latin Americans, we go to school abroad, whatever, and then after we're done, everybody goes back. That used to be the way that we were, our culture. But what happened? Venezuela got into these dark times, and everything collapsed. And at the same time, I wasn't happy musically with my life in the way that I was in the symphony there, in the National Symphony. I was principal trombone. I was a teacher in the school. I mean, I was doing all the recording sessions. I was the guy, right? But at the same time, even I was driving 200 miles an hour, doing my thing, people around me weren't driving the same speed. So, for example, in the orchestra, it was a great working place. Yeah, but there were some people in there that, let's say, when you get into a place and you feel comfortable, you're in the comfort zone kind of a thing. So that spark just comes down a little bit. So that drive that you have kind of fades out. That's when it gets me. See, I could be the greatest guy as a friend, but when we're working, I need more than just a friendship. I need the same commitment, musical commitment, the artistic commitment. Everything that I put into what I do, I just expect the same thing from the people that are surrounding me. So I was happy, but not as happy I wanted to be within the orchestra. Years before the political collapse. Then the political collapse came in, and of course, that was just the little thing, the little push that I needed to say, okay, what are we going to do here? So I could stay there and just blend in and you get used to like human beings are. When things happen in life, you just get used to, you just kind of go with the flow and just go with it. Or take an adventure and just move on and start all over again. Back then, when this political crisis started, my kids, they were 11 to 12 and 9 to 10, or yeah, 9 to 10. So it was up to me to imagine to give them a future or just stay there and go with the flow and they would just do whatever they wanted to. Because of me having this kind of okay, one more, I want to grow. So things are not over yet. And I'm way back of where I want to be. So I told my wife one day, I said, honey, what if we just leave? After finishing school, we were in Venezuela. Every year we would come here because we have family in the States. So every year we would just come on vacation. So the connection with this country was always there. And since I went to school here, this country immediately became my home. And that's how I felt it. It's not just a place where I went to school. It just became more.
Hmm.
So by having this connection and wanting more, I said, okay, let's go back to the States because I could have gone anywhere. At that point, I was leaving everything behind and starting all over again. So it was, any place was the same thing. But I said, okay, I went to school. This has been always my home. I said, I got people that I went to school with. Somebody's going to give me a hand. Probably, So we decided to just come to the States and mostly for my kids, just to give them a future. Because I said, okay, if I don't make it, that's fine. We're just going to hold on until I can economically. But at least I'm going to give them some kind of an opportunity so they can go to school and they can get a career in whatever they want. Because back then in Venezuela, some of the careers weren't open anymore. Everything's, since the country started collapsing politically, then with the education, that's the second thing that just collapsed. So the public university, they were having strikes all over the place, protests and all that, because, of course, you're going against the government. And so I said, I'm going to give them a future. Whatever happens, happens. If we need to go back, I would just grab my 2 suitcases and just grab into the plane and fly back. So we came over to the States, and my wife, she has a sister that lives in Houston. So I said, okay, what if we just move to Houston? At least the kids, they're going to be by themselves. They didn't speak the language back then. So at least they're going to have some kind of a bridge from house, from the house to school, and they're not going to be alone. Blah, blah, blah. So we went to Houston.
How long ago was this? I want you to keep going where you are, but just to place this time-wise, what year was this?
I went to school from before that. I finished school in 95. That's when I finished college. Went back to Venezuela, 95. I stayed there until when I moved back to the States was 2008. That's when I moved back. So I was there for 13 years. So back then I worked with the Sistema. I was teacher there, with the Budamer and all that. So I came back to the States, moved to Houston because of the family. But so I started calling people up, one of my friends I went to school with. Hey, how are you? Hey, I'm just back in the States. If you need a trombone player or if there's something going on, let me know. At the same time, I was playing with this famous guy. He's from Venezuela, but he's a really famous singer, like Ricky Martin, but a little bit on the lower side. He's famous in South America, here in the Hispanic audience in Spain. And that. So I used to play with this band, and we used to tour around. So I had some kind of an income within the tours and So went to Houston, started making phone calls here while I was in the States, and I started to get gigs in Miami, where I went to school. I went to the University of Miami. So all my friends that I went to school with at that moment, they were teachers and they were, the people that were gigging around. So soon after, say a month and a half, 2 months after I came, I was already getting a few gigs here in Miami. So I was flying in and back, back and forth, Houston, Miami. But I wasn't either in Miami or Houston because I was here for a week, 10 days, and then I would fly back to Houston. I would be there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then we fly back here. Or I would be flying out on tour. So that was kind of a really unstable situation because I was not in either place. So after that school year, we decided to move back to Miami because I used to get the gigs here. So finished the school year because of the kids. I really didn't want them to feel another big change in their life. It was really a big change moving from one country to another, fitting into a school that you didn't speak the language, so they had to learn English. And at the same time, I didn't want to break that school year in half and move to another place. So I was flying in and out, whatever. School year ended. I got during that first year, I got the green card. So I said, okay, because when I came here, I didn't sell anything in Venezuela. I just came with a few savings that I had and suitcases, just waiting to see what was going to happen. Otherwise, he was going to be kicked out. I will still have a house back there. I didn't do it like many people do. They sell everything and they come over to adventure. I'm not like that. I kind of, I just test the grounds, let's see what happens. And then while the days go by, I see, I just work my way out. Mm-hmm. So after that, I got the green card. So I said, okay, now it's time to do the big move. Then I sold everything that I had done, this house and the car that I had.
Was that scary?
Well, moving
just selling everything in Venezuela, because it's kind of like making it official that you're diving in the deep end here.
It was in a way, but as I said, this was my home. So you know what I mean. So it wasn't like I was jumping into in the arena within the Lions.
Right.
This was home already.
Sure.
So it was scary, yes, in a way that was the only thing that I had. Anyways, my investments were there. So I said, okay, we sell that, no more value, only cash. So that's expendable. You can lose that. Something that you have there that would just it's an investment. So then, we bought the house here and all, and the whole story came in. And so I started gigging around here in Miami. And so everybody moved to Miami. And it felt even more comfortable here in Miami because this is where I went to school with the city. Houston is a great city, but it's different than Miami.
Yes, they are.
They
are just a little different.
Yeah. And the people are different. So I said, once we move here, everything kind of fit in because my kids at the beginning, actually my daughter, she was happy, that, but the change really struck her at the beginning. She said, "Okay, Dad, this is nice, this is beautiful, this is yeah, but you know what, Dad? After Christmas, I'm going back to Caracas. I'm going to live with my grandparents because that's where I have my friends and that's where I have my house." So we have to struggle with that for almost the first school year. But once they start to speak the language, that everything kind of, and when we moved to Miami, everything fit in place. But it was it was an adventure, and people always told me that I was crazy. In fact, my
You
friends
still,
told,
for the record, you still are,
I
but
know,
yeah.
but but I want to believe that I wasn't. The thing is, at 40 some years, or 40 years old, whatever, it's not easy to start all over again. I mean, you have to have a pair to,
A pair of what, Domingo?
uh,
Oh, I thought he meant like a piece of fruit.
suitcases
Like
of
Pair of
suitcases.
suitcases.
Yeah, yeah. In order to like make the move, and everybody says, "But you have a play. I mean, plays in the symphony. You play everywhere. You teach everywhere. You do gigs. You
Yeah.
tour around."
Yeah.
But we're going back to the okay. But I'm not fulfilled here.
Yeah.
That's
So
the remarkable part of this. Well, no, not the remarkable part. That's the most remarkable part to me is that it'd be one thing if you, any of these scenarios I'm about to say would take more courage, and I'm being serious, than anything I've ever done in terms of a leap in life. But it'd be one thing if you were like struggling, and you didn't get an orchestra gig and you didn't have a teaching gig and like there wasn't really roots and you were like, we might as well struggle in Houston or in Miami or in the US, but like you were like doing it. You were the guy. And
well,
that takes courage.
it does. The first at the beginning when we're kind of thinking about it, and when you're in bed talking to the ceiling, and your wife, looking at the ceiling and say, "Should we do this? Would that be a good move?" And then, will the kids be okay? Because that's the
Right?
other question.
Yeah, there's
Will they
layers
get
here.
you exactly?
Uh,
So one day you're up for it. The next day you say, "Well, what if we wait?" But then the next day, okay, but if we wait too long, then we're not going to have all the ups and downs. And I said, you know what? Let's go. And we did it in one move, like the family move, instead of just me coming here for a year and getting a place. Nah, I said, no, that doesn't work. So you either go and get it or try to get it, or you don't do it. So everybody said that I was crazy because I was leaving everything behind and starting all over in a country that is super competitive. And of course, friends that wish you well, and friends, I wouldn't say that always wishing me well, because I never had that kind of negative side, because maybe the way I am, they cannot tell me in my face that, you know. But people said that I was crazy in the way that I was leaving everything behind, getting to a very competitive country, and many people that friends knew, they have made that move before and they have gone broke, no job, no nothing, and they have gone back to Venezuela. And my response was always, well, there's only one way to find out.
that's it.
And every person is a story, and every person is a chapter. So you can't tell my story. I have to live my story. I have to write my story and then see what happens.
I've been I've been accused of being I've been in that same position a number of times. I've left. I've had more success than I probably deserve, and I've left.
Well, no, I wouldn't
Fair.
say that.
Well,
Fair.
Well, yeah, I know. But yeah.
I've
I'm not
left-
gonna go. I'm not gonna go Andrew's side. I'm gonna go.
I've left those positions, and a lot of people thought it was really, really crazy, and I really didn't. Maybe doubt isn't the right word, but I was just confident that this was the direction that I needed to go in, and I appreciated that feedback. But did you? It doesn't sound. I mean, it sounds similar. Like I don't get a sense that you were very nervous or worried about it working. You just figured you're going to figure it out. You're going to get there and assess, and you'll just build and build and build. you didn't go with this sort of scared puppy dog kind of, gosh,
No,
I hope
because
this works.
if you have that attitude, you're not gonna make it
Yeah.
because you're always gonna be scared or afraid of doing things. So you have to just go at it and just face to face. I mean,
well,
there's
and you're
only
going to
one way.
figure it out, right? You just know that I know how to do this. Like I know how to move this down the road. So that's the part that well-meaning friends and mentors and confidants and teachers and family are trying to say, protect you. They care about you and they don't want to see you suffer.
Of course.
But you know that this is it. It seems like from the way you're describing it, it was clear as the nose on your face that you needed to bring your family to the United States, and that was where the next chapter of your life was going to.
I was sure about. I was sure of it, even though I didn't know what was going to happen. But that's how I felt, and that's why I took the move.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I was kind of. I said, "Let's go all the way. Otherwise, you will never find out, or you will never give in your 100%."
Oh, how terrible would you feel too if you didn't do it? I mean, you would just play the what if game the rest of your life.
I would be regretting it
whole
for the rest
life,
of my life. Exactly. So I said to my friends, and there's only one way to find out. And then, as I said, I came in, started making phone calls, and things started to happening. And as my father always said, never say what you can do.
Oh.
Never say anything. Just be there and do the best that you can. Not even, just do your best.
Yeah,
but
awesome.
never say anything. So that has been the way I've done things all my life. Just like, and then friends and
it builds and builds and builds.
And I guess being the right way at the right moment, kind of a thing, and being who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean,
and
to me,
listen to your gut. Yeah, and listen to your gut. Some of the smartest people that I know who are in the music business, people I know really well, there were a number of them that tried to convince me to not leave Boston Brass when I was contemplating leaving Boston Brass. They were telling me that that's a gig that you don't give up.
Yeah, ditto.
That like it's just like that's not a good idea, and I just knew that it was time for me to move on. It was time for me to move on for me. It was time for me to move on for the band. Like Sam Palafian was meant to be in that band for the period that he was in it. Like William is meant to be in that band right now. I'm meant to be doing all the things that I've been doing. I've been around so much for my kids, the first 6.5 years. I mean, it's just like the list goes on and on and on. And hindsight's 2020, and it's worked out great for like all parties concerned. I think Jeff gets really sad pretty regularly that I'm gone, but other than Jeff, he can't sleep. I know. I don't like to talk about it because it sounds like I'm bragging. But again, those were people who these are people who I'm close with, who were like absolutely trying to give the best possible advice that they could to me, who were telling me to like not do what my gut was telling me to do, which proved to be the right thing. So just remember that it's not don't listen to your friends, but it's just like your gut knows better than your friends do.
I'm with you on that. And besides that, of course, they always want the best for you, but they're looking at it from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't know exactly what's going on.
Yep.
Inside.
Yep.
So I'm with you 200% on that. That when it's time to change or do something, either you go and do it, or then you might regret it.
Yeah.
Could make a mistake, but there's only one way to find out.
Yeah. And you will make mistakes. I mean, there's no way to avoid it. So
nothing is perfect in life.
Of course. Speaking of mistakes, I wanted to take a moment to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for the Brass Junkies. Parker Mouthpieces,
but they're perfect mistakes.
Yes, they're perfect. No, I don't know. Parker isn't a mistake. His mouthpieces are never. We specialize in awkward segues around here, and we're very mean to our sponsors because they regularly give us money. So it's, It's opposite day always around here. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces completely free of mistakes for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke Model euphonium mouthpiece. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So I have a question for you, Domingo, which is good since we're interviewing you. It's good when the people, when you're interviewing someone, you have some questions for them. There has continued over the last, 12, coming up on 13 years that you've been in the States. There's been continued chaos in Venezuela where you have a lot of family and, there's been a handful of times when it really flares up that I've texted you to just say, hey, is your family okay? Just thinking of you. But how has it been hard to be here? Like, how has that affected you as an artist? Like with all of that chaos there, or has it? Like, what is that like? I've never experienced anything like it.
Well, of course it does. Hits you in a way that's where you belong. That's where you were born. And actually, I always told my kids, because when they were kind of growing up, kids, they would just be in the car and they would say, "Dad, I hate Venezuela because of blah 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 blah." And I always told them, "You shouldn't hate your country. The people that are in office, they're not your country. They're just people that are in an office, and they just happen to be the government at the moment.
Hmm.
But never forget who you are, and never forget where you belong, or where you come from. Not do you belong, where you come from."
Mm-hmm.
So I was always telling them, because even though my son speaks more English than Spanish. Yeah, actually, more. He says he has lived here more than half of his life already.
Wow.
So I always told them not to forget where they come from, because even though this is our home and this is our country, because now we're citizens, of course, but never forget where you come, because I mean those are your roots, and to me that's important in a person, in culture, in just telling who you are, who you really are. So in a way it hits me, but I'm here, you know, and I shouldn't say I don't look back. I look back, but I'm going forward. See, I made a decision. I feel for them. I feel for my country, of course. And of course, I want this government to just vanish and just have free elections and have the people that need to be there. But I'm here.
Right.
So my beliefs are that I need to defend what's near. I need to believe what's near. I need to be part of what happens here.
Hmm.
So it does bother me. Will I go back to visit? Yes. As of now, I, I'm I'm not thinking about going back and live there.
Right.
You never know.
Sure.
But it does make me suffer because of family, because of friends, because every time I talk to them, they're living hard times. There's no gasoline. There are
Yeah.
people making lines. There are people making 8 hours, 10 hours lines to fill up their car. And you would understand that if you are from, I don't know, a country in the middle of nowhere that doesn't produce anything, right? But Venezuela is an an oil producer country. It used to be the third in the
Yeah.
world. So, hello. So, what
Something's
happened?
broken.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that and food and of course now when I was there, a regular salary was, I don't know, maybe $1,000, 15. I would say $1,000, $800,000. Talking about what, 20 years ago, maybe 13, 15 years ago. Right now, what's the, I'm not talking about minimum wage because they kind of erased that. They Cubanize the economy. So everybody's on the same level. That's what they did. So now people, the regular salary is $3 a month. Three. People in Cuba make more money.
Mm.
So can I fix that? No.
Right.
Can I do something to fix that? No.
Right.
So I feel for them, and if I could do something, I would.
Sure.
But but I'm here, so it's hard. I really wish I could do, or we Venezuelans could do more, but we still have to wait. So it's a very complicated situation, and of course how people behave. I mean, there are secret pacts between politicians that you think you're white and you're A, you're B, and then it turns out that A and B, they kind of talk behind the curtains, and they kind of make deals, and then you B, I hate you B, no, you're a communist A, those kind of things. So
Right.
so yeah, I mean, I hope well, we've been hoping for 20 years already, so it's been a long hope.
Let's jump back to where we started at the beginning of the conversation. You said that when the pandemic broke out, it gave you some clarity about what it was that you needed to do. And so what was that clarity? Where are you going artistically? What were the projects that you knew this is where I need to go and this is what I need to work on?
Well, I didn't, and I'm not going that far of what I would be going, kind of a thing. But it's like, what do I need to do to get better at? For example, I don't know, like in my playing, what should I be thinking of artistically, like as Domingo? What could I do to be interesting as a musician? You see, to me, the key is not to be the best, because how do you get to be the best? When you believe it. Otherwise, it was the best. You know what I mean? So that doesn't work for me. The way it works for me is how you can be interesting to people, how you can be that. And actually, I normally use, just to kind of motivate myself, I don't use not either trombonist or musician. I kind of like to use the more artists, because that involves, maybe in my mind, like a bigger world kind of a thing.
Mm.
So of course, you're a musician, you have to be a player, but you have to imagine, you have to create in a way how you can draw people's attention. So my motivation is always be a player, artist, whatever, that when you play, you make people interested in listening to you. See, it's not about being the perfect machine. It is, because at the end you have to. But that's not my goal.
Yeah, that's the minimum. That's to get you in the door. But then
Right.
the art is what elevates it.
Exactly.
Let
So
me, Domingo, I'm going to interrupt you to say something very nice about you, so I don't feel as bad. When
okay.
To be clear, I wouldn't feel bad if I was interrupting you, but this is to say something really nice about you. When you first joined Boston Brass, I felt like right away, I felt like I had been playing with you for, because tuba and trombone in a brass quintet is like, there's a lot going on here, right?
Exactly.
And I felt like I had been playing with you for years. I mean, like the second gig felt like I'd been playing with you for years
It was
because
easy. It was easy to, actually, I was going to say the same thing. It was easy to play together.
Yes, well, because you do what I try to do. You bring like tons of opinion to everything you're playing because you're trying to be interesting, but while also, and this is the key, I think, to being a great professional, is tons of opinion while simultaneously listening for other ideas to on the spot change your opinion according to the other opinions that you're hearing. And if you had tried, because you were that time you were the only new voice in the band, if you had, you might think, if you're a young musician listening to this, that you just kind of try and in a way stay out of the way, and you just kind of like assimilate and kind of like get warm and just be respectful, and then you take your shoes off when you come in the house, and then you eventually feel comfortable opening the fridge and getting something. Like, that's not the way to do it, right? You need somebody to just like walk in,
You gotta come in. You gotta come in and be you.
make a
Otherwise,
sandwich, yeah, right away.
exact.
Yes.
Otherwise, you will never fit in.
Yes.
Because
And you're making it harder on everybody else.
Yes, you
exactly,
are.
because the
Yes.
people surrounding you, they're not gonna actually know who you are musically. Of course, this like where are you?
It
And
was
then
it was so
I was-
great.
I
Yeah, it
was,
was so great.
I mean, and actually, I tell students and all that when you go to a gig, never ask, "Am I doing it right?" Because if you say that to a pro player next to you, the first thing that they're gonna say, "Okay, you're not ready for this because you don't know, you don't have an opinion to be here." So I was, even if it is the wrong opinion, just be you.
I'm good at that.
No, but in a way that's the only way that you learn, and that's the only way that you can have a
Yes.
second try. Because I mean, I when I play, I remember when I went to college, I was a freak on, still am. I was a freak of when I play. How do I sound? Do I like the way that I sound? Of course, I want to play like the gods. Yes, I want to play like Joe Alessio. I wish,
Take a
but
number.
that's kind of the role model that you have. That's why you have here, and you kind of move here, and then the other thing that I always think of is, okay, I want to be like him, but if I become him, they're gonna call him. So I said, what can I do to sound like him but be me? And
Yes.
that's what I've been doing all my life. Of course, as I said, I'm a freak of sound. Of when I play, am I hearing what I want to hear, what I thought about, the way that I thought about that piece, the way that I thought that I needed to sound like. So that's my motivation when I'm here. Like, okay, what do I need to do? It's not about playing the scale cleaner, or no, it's more of a, what can I do to get your attention if you're watching TV? So that's where I am.
It's perfect, and because it's a perfect segue too, because we want to talk to you some more about. I mean, we haven't mentioned the fact that you've got a Latin Grammy and that you've got to work with our mutual buddy, older brother, colleague, mentor, Sam Palafian. Sam, and actually, Domingo, here's another thing you and I share in common, separated by 20 years. Sam produced a solo album for me.
Nice.
20 years ago. But before we launch into that, I know, believe me. And actually, Andrew, I just realized that he was my age now when he wrote me the Armenian thing, which is very strange.
So he was pretty old.
He was pretty old, yeah. How he had the energy to do that, I don't know.
I don't either.
So anyway, hold on, save it. So the Duquesne University Mary Papert School of Music has been a longtime sponsor of this show, and we greatly appreciate their support. If you're interested in finding out about what's going on at Duquesne University, click on the link in the show notes and you'll be taken to a page that shows you all the ways that you can be involved with the brass stuff at Duquesne University and the Mary Papert School of Music. Fantastic faculty, great ensembles for you to play in. Very special thanks to Jim, opinionated musician. No, musical opinions is what we were wanted, right? Oh, sorry, Jim. Nova for making that possible.
You
Okay,
should have.
so-
Lance and I, we had an hour-long meeting this morning to rewrite the copy for Duquesne, and we came up with that brass stuff with the pause in between. Yeah, that was.
Well, it's just so all-encompassing. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to just single out one aspect of it. The pedagogy,
there's so much
musical
stuff over there.
ensembles,
So-
the tutelage,
so much stuff.
the nova-ness of all of it.
Well, actually, now you're mentioning when you have that space before the stuff,
Right?
Stuff.
sounds
Could be anything.
huge. No,
Yeah, it's huge.
and the
It's like
spectrum
it's
is really
expansive.
big.
I know. Yeah, of course.
Right.
Domingo, we're professionals here.
Oh,
man.
I know.
It's not an accent.
You thought you were just talking to two of your idiot friends on Zoom.
No, you guys get it going. Yeah.
This is
Ah,
chess, man.
yeah.
This is chess.
Yeah.
All right.
right.
So, as Lance just said, you just won the 2020 Latin Grammy for Best Classical Album, which is unbelievable. And I mean, no, I don't. I didn't.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, wow.
Who saw that coming? Yeah, like
Wow.
because these would have been albums made before the world couldn't make albums. Because if it was kind of like, and best recording of Zoom from their office with bad sound goes to, that's a smaller pond.
I have to interrupt briefly just to say that when
Integrate?
I have to integrate. I was writing the Easter eggs, and I wrote "winning the 2020 Latin Granny," and here she is.
Okay.
That's a different podcast. So, but I mean, yeah, that is one of the happiest moments of my year was when I saw your Facebook post announcing that. And there's a very special story that goes with that, which is that Sam Palafian, who was near and dear to all three of us and to like 3/4 of the thousands of people who are going to listen to this in some way. That guy was such a master of producing that the first time I produced, I texted him and said, "Hey, I'm producing a recording session. What do I need to know?" And he just texted back, "Call in 5." And then he calls me, and I already had this, and he goes, I said, "Hey man," and when he called, and then he goes, "Do you have a pen?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And then he just like he went. It was like 8 minutes long, and he just like, and he just talked about the whole thing. So he's one of the best producers of brass albums to ever live. I mean, it's prolific. Your album, this one we're about to talk to you about, was the last one that he ever recorded, and it's incredible, and it's getting all the accolades that it deserves. So we want to hear your story because he was already sick, and this was the final one. So tell us about what it was like to win that, and with to honor him after his passing. And I want to hear all about this whole thing.
Okay, I'm going to start with making of. Okay. So when we were actually mostly traveling, Jose, and I would be in the car. So one day he says, "Domingo, I think it's time for you to do a recording." And I went like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, it's time for you to do a recording." So a recording of what? Your solo CD. I said,
Of what? You want me to wear a wire? Like, what are you talking about?
And he said, "Your solo CD." And I was like, it struck me because I wasn't even expecting that. I have never thought about it. Like, I did years ago back in Venezuela, but then that idea vanished, and now I'm in the States. The idea is completely vanished. So it's not even, not even flying around. So he says, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I don't know, Sam." And he says, "You don't know what?" You know how he was.
Yeah, I
You
do.
don't know what. I said, "Stop the BS and think about it." Okay, yeah. So weeks went by. Again in the car, he says, "So, have you thought about it?" And I said, "About what?" He said, "Are you gonna play dumb now?" Well, have you given some thought about the solo CD? And so I said, well, Sam, I don't know. And he goes again, you don't know what? Well, I don't know if I'm ready for it. Just we're talking here. I don't know if I'm ready for this. So what do you mean? Well, I don't know if I'm up to it, like level wise. And he says, what do you mean? So nothing. He said, shut up and think about it. I'm going to give you one more week. So a week went by. I said, so have you thought about it? So sure. Okay, let's start working on this. So he says, so think about a repertoire and then we'll talk. Of course, when we're talking about it, of course, that idea started to okay, what if we do this? So then the question, what do I record? Do I get into the same stuff that everybody does? And I said, you know what? No. I'm gonna be me. Because the whole idea of this recording was just a business card, a Domingo Pagliuca business card that I could show who I am with the trombone. Because every time people ask, so what do you do? I'm a musician. So what do you play? Trombone. Bing.
Try euphonium.
Yeah, try tuba. Yeah.
Exactly. So this okay.
You actually ranked the highest on this call, which is not saying much, but it's still a fact.
Exactly. So that's where I was. Okay, how do I introduce the trombone, but not being with one more recording? I'm not saying better or worst. I'm just saying a recording that could be me. So instead of thinking of, okay, what do I want to do? And of course, same words always. Always be you. Always be you. Always be you. So I said, okay, you know what? When we were talking, I said, Sam, what if I do this specific? Okay, don't start doing concertos. Nobody listens to that, he says. Before even talking about the repertoire, I say, don't do concertos. Don't do, he said something I forgot, because nobody listens to that. And we could do that later. But at the moment, just present yourself to who you are. So he always said that I was a guy that could play different styles and I could kind of travel within the genres or styles of music. So I said, what if I do this and start just collecting these pieces of a la manera of, because I wanted to do mostly original pieces for trombone. So I found these pieces that were written for trombone on the styles of Jean-Michel Defay. So yeah, la maniera of Bach, Schumann. So I said, these are perfect because they're written for a trombone. I'm not doing transcriptions of something. And the guys were respected, the composer. So why not? So I said, Sam, what if we do this? And he says, that sounds interesting. So how many pieces are there? So I got like 7 of these, and then I want to do because the bluebells that we recorded, he did the arrangement for me. So I said, we're putting in bluebells. Said, sure. So another great way to honor him that he did the arrangement for that. So then I showed him that I wanted to do this big band piece, Looking Through the Eyes of Love, whatever, from Eyes of Castles, Mm-hmm. And I said, it's such a, and when he listened to it, he said, I love it. That is going in. And then I said, of course, I want to do something Venezuelan. That's where I come from. That's my roots. And then I did the trombonology. When I want to do trombonology, okay, so and he says, so how do you want to do it? I said, don't know yet, but it's not going to be on the traditional way. So it's not going to be with either big band. I thought about a little combo, like jazz combo. That was my first idea. Like drums, a bass, a big bass, and that's it. And me, something real, and maybe a little piano, but just really simple. And it's okay. Let's talk about it later. So we decided he loved the repertoire, and so we decided to start working on where to record. That was another big question. Where do I record? Because the production office was my pocket. So there wasn't much money involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, start calling friends. And I found a place here in Miami, Lynn University. We had the big hall. Everything was set, but they didn't have a recording equipment. So I had to rent it. Okay, we'll just look into some numbers. We can set it up. And Sam got into the first treatment session. So we have to postpone it.
Mm.
So when we did that, Boston Bruce was flying somewhere. I think we were in Kansas. And I was talking to, after the concert, I was talking to Steve Lasering, good friend of ours. So I said, Domingo, when are you recording your CD? Same question that I've been getting in the past couple of years. So at some point, I've been working on it, but I found a place. Sam got into the treatment, so we have to postpone. And he says, why don't you record it here? I said, what? Here in Kansas? The hall is amazing. I said, yeah. He says, why, don't you like it? I said, well, that's not the issue. The issue here is, how much is that going to cost me? I said, let me work on it. I said, do you have an accompanist? And I said, well, I did. Since I kind of postponed it, I don't have the second place. It's up in the air because it depends on where I record. Hold on. Paulina, she was talking to the guys on the other table because we were in a restaurant. Paulina, come over here. And she comes with a drink. Hey, Domingo wants to record a CD and he wants to accompany him. And I looked at him like, I didn't say that.
She's like, I don't play piano, but okay.
And she went like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, so what did just happen here? It's okay. Well, okay, Steve, let's talk numbers here before we kind of commit to anything. So I went back home. He looked at the numbers. The numbers were great. We kind of set up the date for October. Sam was going into a second treatment because they changed the medication. Remember that they had like the nutritional thing that whatever they call it.
Yep.
So they said, Domingo, we might have to change it or maybe do it with someone else. What? So we can change this. So I said, we'll just change it. So call the guys. Hey, guys, we need to change this. Sam, that's fine. We'll talk to the engineer. So they found another day, which was January, before classes. That's winter. Cold. You never know what's going to happen there. Kansas. So
I gotta interrupt because the first time that Boston Brass went to Alaska, Jose was in the band, and it was December and he bought a coat for it, and it was like had like it had like fur trim
around there,
and it was like, I mean, the thing. This was like
it was like Kenny from
South
South Park.
It was like Kenny, and it was so thick that his arms didn't even go down. They were at like maybe like a 30-degree angle from his body. It was. I thought you would enjoy that. I would feel guilty not sharing that memory with you. So now please continue.
He freaks out with cold weather.
Yes, he does.
So I called Sam like November. So we got a new day, January, whatever. So let me know if we're up to it. And he says, yeah, we'll work it out. Beginning of December. Because he said, Domingo, so how are we with the dates? Well, I'm just waiting for you to confirm. He said, you know what? I don't want you to wait for me, he says. Just if something happens, if I don't, if the treatment changes again, he never said if I don't make it. He says, if they change my treatment, I don't want you to still waiting for me. I said, just maybe use somebody else. I said, no, I'm not. This is not my city. At this point, it's our thing. It's our project. And I'm just going to tag it that way. So it's either with you or I don't do it. And I said, and you know what? I said, Sam, I don't care. It's not about the CD. It's about being with you. So if I don't do it, that's fine. And it's not a priority, I said.
I'm laughing during this very sweet moment because you Palafian, which is like awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I learned something from
Yes.
you. So it's okay. So I called him up the week before Christmas, kind of a thing. We were in San Francisco doing our last Kenton show somewhere. Yeah, we were in California. So Sam, how are you, man? I said, okay, Domingo. So are we set? I said, yeah. I'm just waiting for you to confirm. So he says, block the dates, and we're good for it. Okay. And then he says, I'm going to ask you one thing. He says, are you going to be ready for this? I said, what do you mean? I said, are you going to be ready? I mean, are you going to be ready for the record? I said, Sam, how wouldn't I be ready if you're going to be there? Like, how disrespectful could I be to you if I'm not ready? You know what I mean? So it's like, of course I'm going to be ready. Of course I'm going to be ready. Okay, then not the dates. But he was already sounding weak. And I said, we can postpone. And he said, no, we're not postponing this. We're doing it. He knew already. I didn't know because I hadn't seen him. Right. I hadn't seen him it was December, like in 4 months. Last time I saw him was kind of September, October that we did that thing and he was with us and he looked okay. Mm-hmm. So Christmas, hey, how are that? New Year's Eve. So time to start the recording. I flew to Kansas. It was Friday. I don't remember if it was the 8th. And he was flying in the next day. So I flew in the day before just to have everything ready, to have his room ready, and have the mic set up, the sound set up, everything ready, and rehearse with Paulina. So we were going to rehearse Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday, do the sound check and start recording on Tuesday. So I would have 3 days. I flew in, boom, snowstorm, Friday night. All night, Saturday, Sam calls me and says, Domingo, my flight has got canceled. Okay. Yeah, man, so I'll be landing tomorrow to get us on one flight. Okay. I'll be landing around 1 p.m. Okay, now we're talking about Sunday, 1 p.m. So Saturday's not kind of lost. Another snowstorm on Saturday, so I couldn't see Paulina that day. So I was at the hotel. Okay. Sunday, went to the airport, picked him up. That's when I saw him. When he was really, really weak and, the hoses and all that. And that's what kind of struck me and I said, okay, Sam, what are you doing here? And he just, you know him, it's like, with all the positive energy and the big smile, I said, I just came here to make a killer recording. Let's do this. And I was like, I was about to cry because what are you talking about recording? Just get back on the calendar and just fly back home.
For anybody who doesn't know the context, Sam passed away on April 5th. So this was less than just under 3 months before he passed away.
Exactly. So when I saw him, I said, just smile, positive attitude. The box with 10 bags of nutrients because it was all liquid. He wasn't eating at the time. So driving down, back to Kansas, he was like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? I made him come all the way over here and he should be home. Anyways, we made it to the university. He went back to, actually, first we went to the hotel. He checked in, all his bags, whatever. He said, call the university and have the engineer go there by 5 so we can start the rehearsal. Oh, and he asked me the day before, have the engineer to do the sound check on Sunday at the same time you're doing the rehearsal so we can start recording on Monday. I said, okay. I wouldn't say no to Sam. but I hadn't played with Paulina yet. Exactly. It's like, okay.
Makes it exciting.
And I said, okay, I haven't played with her yet. And this is Sunday already. Yeah, we start tomorrow. I said, oh, okay. So went to the university. He sat down. We talked. Okay, I started playing. Doing the rehearsal. He was in the booth, just listening to the. So we rehearsed, and he was recording while doing sound check. Of course, we kind of read the whole repertoire and just stop and okay, we're gonna do it slower, faster, whatever. Okay, we start tomorrow. Okay, and then I said, listen to the sound and tell me how you like it. Of course, I grabbed the earphones, put them on, and he just pressed play. Andrew, Lance, I started listening to my playing, and I hated it.
I didn't think it was going that direction. I thought you were going to talk about how the mix was perfect. That's funny.
I didn't listen to that. I was listening to myself. Because I said, okay, what am I listening to? And then I started listening to the piece, and of course, then Domingo, the trombonist, came in. Bad articulation. Oh, I don't like, that's not the style. Everything started to collapse here and started. So Sam looked at my face and he says, so what's up? What's up? I said, he said, don't you like it? I say, yes and no. He says, what do you mean yes and no? So I do like the sound of it, but I'm kind of not happy with the way I sound. He says, in what sense? Well, now I'm not sure. I was listening to Bach, and the notes are too long. And you know what? The thing, I started to going into what if I'm playing too long, I'm playing too short, you know what? I don't know. And he says, shut up, stand still, and listen. So what don't you like about it? So what? Now I'm not sure if he said, I know. And I said, so how are we going to do this, Sam? Because I was freaking out already. So we're going to record, and then I'm going to go into the booth and listen to that and then decide. I said, no. So what do you mean, no? He said, no, you're not going to come in at all. Of course, the freaking moment, just freaking out was even worse. I said, how am I going to know if I'm playing right? And he said, so what do you bring me for? He says.
Oh, Sammy from Miami.
Right. So what do you bring me for here? MF, MF.
Mighty fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, what do you respond to that? Well, he says, do you trust me? And I said, completely with my life. Okay. He says, that's it. I will tell you if what I'm listening is fun. If you're not playing the right style, I will stop and tell you. Are we okay now, sir? He says. I say, yeah, I guess. What do you mean, I guess? No, yeah, we are. Okay, we start tomorrow. Hug, smile back again into his face, and that was it. Andrew, that was the last talk about that subject.
Wow.
That was it.
Guess what? When he said, "Do you have a pen ready?" to me, when he gave me the rundown, which, by the way, we will link to this in the show notes. But I took such copious notes, I turned that into an entrepreneurial musician episode. Was like Sam on producing, so we'll have Lance throw that in the show notes. But two of the big headlines from that talk that he gave with me was what you just talked about, which is he said, Hitz, remember that your main job is to keep in mind is that you're managing humans. You're managing human beings, like interacting with themselves, with their egos, with each other, with the clock, with their chops, but you need to remember you're dealing with humans. And then the other one was, he said your quality control, and they have to trust you. This is literally what he told me, was exactly what he was yelling at you about, which was just like, you can't tell them it's good when it's not, or they're gonna lose trust, and then the whole session is shot. Or they're gonna get home and be like, this guy Hitz sucks. Like this isn't good. This isn't my best. But yeah, it was great. I wish I'd recorded the conversation. I was literally just on my cell phone and just like I didn't have the capacity to be recording it, unfortunately. But that's exactly what you described. What
Yeah,
you
and he
just said.
said, and he said, you know what? Don't worry about this side. Worry about put your emotions when you play. Not even play good. He
Hmm.
didn't use that word.
Right.
He used just put your emotions when you play, and tell me how you want to play the pieces. That's it. I said, I will tell you if I don't like it. And that was it. So we're starting the next day. I said, how many hours are we going to put? Like 5, 6, 7, 8? I said, he says, are you crazy? I said, no, I don't know. This is the first time that I'm getting into this kind of situation because I've been to recording studios, but that's commercial music. That's different. This is a new turf for me.
Right.
He said, no, 4 hours stop. I said, what am I going to do in 4 hours? I told him because I never done it. So you'll see. If you're ready, you'll see. So Andrew, we start recording next Monday, and they said, just let's do 3 pieces a day. You choose them. Go from hard to easy in a way that
Hmm.
we have more time just in case that we need to do something else. We start on Monday, and man, everything just was easy. Paulina played amazingly. I mean, she was so easy to play with, and she was so musical that when you start playing and you look at the person and just the eye contact is just there and you breathe and everything works. There were some takes that you were like perfect. They were I mean, even some retards, they were like you couldn't even rehearse them. They
Wow.
were like right on the spot. So
Isn't it exciting when you get in a session like that? When Lance and I recorded the Brass Recording Project session with Rich, Kelly, and Kevin Gibo and JD Shaw, it was the same way. It was like the five of us. It was just like
can you
it was like a
imagine?
train going
I can
downhill.
imagine. And the thing is, when you get into that vibe, then you're just going with the flow. I mean,
Yes.
all those worries and I wouldn't say doubts, but questions that come up to mind is like, forget this, and we're just gonna go. And what happens, happens.
Yeah.
Um, we did the whole thing in 3 days, actually, instead of being 4. So he was able to fly back 2 days before he was supposed to. Then I still,
Wow.
so everything went great. And I remember one night, second night, Tuesday night, we were at the lobby of the hotel, just him and I just talking. He says, I mean, the rhythm, I mean, the recording just going great. Of course, I didn't know because he was there. I was just playing, but he was kind of having the big picture of it. I remember, and this is funny in a way that I don't know if it happened to you, but every time we were talking about recordings and music live and awards and that, he always mentioned a Grammy at some point. He would always, but not talking about getting, oh man, yeah, these people, they won this competition. Remember, if we do a recording and we get a Grammy, it was always, if we do something, but it wasn't about just talking about musical projects. And if we get a Grammy, okay. So we're going to imagine if we get a Grammy on this, he says. That night, I said, sure, whatever you say. So we recorded, he went back home. Then I started to do the editing myself and all that. Then I kept in touch with him. I think you and I talked in January.
Mm-hmm.
You were texting that you were talking to Sam and you asked him about the recording, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or he told you about that. He just finished
Yeah,
it.
we actually we spoke on the phone for a long time one night, and yeah, and he was like glowing. He said that you absolutely murdered the session. Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. And then, so I kept in contact with him for a month and a half. Then by the end of February, it was kind of intermittent. And then after that, no more kind of texts. So he couldn't listen to the whole thing done. So he passed away sadly. We saw each other at the memorial, whatever. So then a year went by, and this year I was talking here. I was with one of the engineers who worked with me here in Miami. And he says, Domingo, what if we submit the CD for the Latin Grammys? I said, what? I said, what if we just submit it? I said, first of all, I said, no way. Second of all, I said, how can you think that if this is a trombone CD?
Recorded in Kansas.
I mean, talking openly here. I mean, that's my first thought. I mean, it's like, he says, and that's another thing that I learned that I didn't believe it at the moment. You see, it's like that's one of the things that in my life that I said, no, that won't happen. So he said, if you don't submit it, I will submit it, because he's one of the engineers, so he can submit it. And I said, okay, do whatever. So he submitted it. Then when the submission, they asked a few questions, and there's a question, what category? He said, where do we put it in? I said, I don't know. What are the categories there? What is instrumental? I said, put it in instrumental. I mean, where else? I don't think you're going to go with rock. Or it's going to put, right? He says, so what if you do classical? I said, I don't know, but the CD is not entirely classical. So he calls the office, say, we have a question here. We're about to submit a CD. And we were afraid of now that we were talking about it, say, if you submit something that is in the wrong category, it was going to be eliminated. He says, no, there's a committee there that they get all the CDs, they listen to them, and they kind of categorize it according to whatever they hear. So he sent it in, whatever. And 2 months after, the first list comes out, but internally within the academy, which is the pre-list. Of course, he calls me up. He's engineers. They're into that. they live for that. So he said, "Are you there?" And I was here. Yeah. I said, "Yeah." Have you checked? I said, "Have I checked what?" That's the Boston brass. I mean, the joke, Domingo joke. He said, "Have we done what?" It's always a what after the sentence. It's like what or where? Where? We're rehearsing number 5. Okay. Where? So
that sounded like Lance, except his was less endearing.
So the guy said, check that up. So I go in, and they put it on the classical category, right? There were 110 CDs on that list.
Holy crap.
So I said, what a privilege, what an honor. I couldn't say anything. At that point, you can't say anything, otherwise you get eliminated. That's internal. That's when you kind of put out the CD for consideration, but you can say Grammy, you can tag anything connected to it. You say, for your consideration, and people that are on the academy, they know that that's the code for going and vote. So I said, okay, we will never make it, but at least I made the first pre-list, so that's an honor. 2 months went by. Again, he calls me up on a Saturday morning, and I was my daughter. She was in a Zoom meeting, so I was with the dogs in my bedroom. So he was calling me, and I was just charging my phone. 2 hours later, I see like 5 missed calls, and I called him up because I called him the day before just to talk about something. He says, He says, honey, are you up? I said, yeah. What's up? Have you checked? I checked what? So that's when we found out about the nomination. That was big news.
Wow.
Because that's like there. And by being a trombone city, it's like huge. And it was within the classical category. So it's like, wow. So to me, that was it. And then I said, Sam, of course. And I was telling everybody, I know it's you, Sam. I know that he was grabbing the guy by the beard and said, you gotta move the thing up because that's my city. So at the moment, I was really, really happy with it. And that was it. To me, that was already, I was a winner already. That was a huge privilege and an honor to be nominated in a classical category with a trombone city, trombone and piano city. So, anyways, 2 months went by. Again, second round of voting. I was okay. There's no chance. Again, the negative side that I learned that it doesn't need to be around. I said, what if? No, but at that moment, see, the city was never intended for this. So I never kind of wanted this and never imagined this. So this is a gift of life, I would say. And to me, at that moment, I kind of wanted it, but not for me, for Sam. It's like, okay, that's the ultimate give back.
Right.
Like, okay, we made it this far. This city went through a path that I never imagined. So now they are giving me the candy and I'm kind of tasting the candy. Now when I eat it all, it's like I don't want the candy to be pulled out of my mouth. So that was kind of the thought in my mind. So I kind of would love to get it for him. Day of the ceremony, whatever, they called us up, 3 p.m. Of course, we were like third within the start of the show. So it was like, okay. So right there. I was really tense because that's a turf that I'm not used to. I can get on the stage and I'm complete control because I control the situation, but there you don't. It's like,
Sure.
it's out of your hands. I was kind of tense and kind of, okay. And the only thing that when they say, okay, category 46, be ready, live in 2 minutes. Okay, this is it. I looked up out the window and I looked at the sky. And you know what? The only thing that calmed me was I started talking to Sam.
Hmm.
And at that moment, I just thank him for everything. So, Sam, we made it this far, and I still talk about this and kind of get the nod in my. I said, Sam, thank you so much for being in my life, for giving me this much, and for taking me into this amazing journey that I never imagined. And if whatever happens, happens. If we get it, great. But if not, thank you. Andrew, 15 seconds before we went we went on air, whatever, I was completely calm. This is weird. And I felt that he was like, all good, man.
Hmm.
Yeah, man, things are going to work out. I was in complete calm mood.
Hmm.
They announced and we won. And to me, the whole thing just giving him that is so special because I know it's something small in return of so much that he gave me, but at least, it's like, okay, I could give him something that maybe he really wanted. I never said it. And Diane said that. Diane wrote that night that he told me Diane didn't want me to come here, but I came anyways because we needed to do a killer recording. He said that in the car. She wrote that day, 2 months ago. I asked Sam not to travel.
I love this.
You read
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, I asked him not to fly and
Yep.
do the recording.
She was against it.
She was against it.
Mhm.
And she says, and he told me, his answer was, if I'm afraid that if I don't go, Domingo won't do his recording. So according to him, He needed to be there. That's how much he was a giver of love,
Yeah.
He was
And
there.
the timeline here, the last time that I saw him, I flew down to visit him in the hospital on March 1st, and he had already, like as you said, the end of February, he had pulled back from basically everybody, and the only reason that I got to see him was because I flew all the way down there, and I was like, when am I coming to the hospital? Like basically. And we had a wonderful visit, but that was 7 weeks after your recording
When
session,
we were supposed to, Jose and I were flying in the
right?
day, actually the same day he passed away. He
Yeah,
was flying. We were flying that night,
right.
and when we talked to Diane, she says, "Guys, what you're gonna see is not the Sam that you know."
Yeah,
I said, "No, that's the Sam that we know. He might look different, but
yeah,
that's the Sam that we know. And we need." And I told her, "I need to be there. I need to say thank you." So we talked to her before our concert. We had a concert that Friday night, and everything was in place. She said, "Are you still coming?" I said, "Yeah, after the gig, we're driving 5 hours to the airport. We're flying into Phoenix. We're gonna see him, then we're flying back." Intermission. 2 minutes before going back to the second half, I received a text saying that he passed away.
Oh,
It was brutal.
I don't
So
know how I don't know how you did that half, man.
well, man, we were. It was so hard to play, and then after the concert, we cried like babies. Jose and I,
Sure.
we broke down like babies, man.
Oh, yeah.
And as I said, this was so important to me, but not for me, because of what it represents. It's paying respect to him.
Right.
I mean, and the friendship, it was so deep in. It's like he meant so much. He means still, even though he's up there, I still feel him over here. So that's why, to me, it's really special. So we made history. Actually,
It's
we did
awesome.
make
It's awesome.
first
So-
trombones ever.
So, and probably last. So Lance, how are we going to segue from all of that into into busting on Jens? I mean, we
I think you just did.
We specialize in awkward segues, and this one is straining even my abilities. So, what did we say before? Speaking of mistakes, so we gotta wrap this, and then have Domingo stick around for the bonus episode where Lance has a story that it sounds like his son was making fun of Jeff Connor at Disney World. I'm all about that. I mean, Duncan should feel bad making fun of Jeff, because
Totally.
I would never do that.
Respect
ever,
your elders.
ever. The other day I did the math, and I realized that when I joined Boston Brass that Jeff was younger than I am now, and I was like, but he always acted so old, like.
Well, what happened? Because now he was so old.
Yeah.
He
Anyway,
was born at 45.
yeah, he was born. Yeah, like Benjamin Button, except without the reverse aging thing. Yeah, that's basically
And the Brad Pitt part.
It's and the Brad Pitt part. So, he's not here. This isn't nice. So, Domingo, I'm sure that you are well aware that our dear friend Jens Lindemann has been going through some chop problems for a while now.
Oh, my.
What advice would you?
my.
Look at him leaning forward, all eager to help. What advice would you have for Jens in these trying times?
Wow. Well, I would say that he needs to start off with, if he's having issues with the embouchure and all that, maybe buzzing. That could help him out. And you should have the mouthpiece in the freezer.
Ooh.
That's a good thing.
I don't think we've heard that one before.
No, you should have it in the freezer, so it's really, really, really cold.
Yeah.
So when he takes it out, and he should just like wetting his lips
Right.
like that, and then
Right.
and then get the mouthpiece really cold and just put it in
Stick it
there.
right on there.
Right. And this
Oh,
Now, wouldn't it be better if he stuck his head in the freezer, though?
Well, it might help. It might help because, I mean, it would actually get the temperature kind of in the right, the lid
Step
in the
into the
right.
freezer.
Exactly. So
Canadian, he's used to the cold.
you're right about. I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah, he doesn't talk about it much.
I was,
you should start doing.
gonna say you forgot he's Canadian.
I did actually, because last time I saw him, he was speaking in German. So
Yeah. That's his favorite guy.
He does.
And then he kicked over a stand.
exactly.
I like it. So he needs to get a mouthpiece stuck to his,
Frozen
face.
to his face.
Yeah, that's good. It'll keep down swelling
It'll
as
shoot
long as
your
you
eye
don't
out.
try and remove it. So
Exactly.
all right. So we are going to. By the way, the Sampleafian on producing was TEM174. So you can find that at tem.fm, and you can search /search, and you just type in Sampleafian, it'll pop right up, or it's in the show notes. And Domingo, this has been wonderful. We're going to have him hang on for the bonus episode, which you can get access to if you go to patreon.com/thebrassjunkies, and you can join a whole bunch of knuckleheads who are already there supporting the show and getting a bunch of bonus content every month. And I think that that's it. I'm on a call with 2/3 of the trombone players I played with in Boston Brass. That's
true.
Yeah. So, by the way, every other trombone player in Boston Brass history played with only one tuba player. No, wait a minute. No, I got this backwards. Because Ed played with a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Never mind. I had a thought in my head, and it totally didn't work out. I was gonna make a joke. Well, it was based on the joke, and I just totally stepped on it. The joke about that JD used to tell about Jeff, and you did too, where Jeff was the only original founding member because he slowly drove all the others away. So that was always a good.
That's good. I forgot that joke. That's a solid joke.
That's a solid joke.
Yeah.
That's a solid joke. Please tell me that somebody still says that, Domingo. Does somebody still say that? That's a good joke.
I've heard that he's the original member, but I never heard the second part of it.
Oh, you
says, Jeff Connor, the only original member of Boston Brass, still on stage, and everybody starts clapping.
And everybody claps.
Yeah.
One by one over the years, he's driven all the other members away, and now you're stuck with us.
On that note, all right, we started the Jeff busting before we even got to the bonus episode. Domingo, this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
This is great. And Lance, as always, you were inspirational.
Oh.
Your questions were insightful and thought provoking and empathetic and not at all pathetic. So thank you, Lance.
Oh, I really appreciate it with no hint of sarcasm at all.
You're my muse. And that is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies.
You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.